Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're going to be talking about boarding actions. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Painted Space Hulk red with brutal close combat brawls and new boarding action supplement. Alright, so before we jump in and talk about the new boarding actions book that's coming out, I just want to discuss my experience with boarding actions and basically how I got completely scammed. So whenever a new product comes out from any company, not just Games Workshop, there's definitely a certain level of expectations that you have towards that product. And more often than not, the expectations you have are going to align with what the actual company producing the product is going to offer, but sometimes there's a small gap between. Other times you're going to get exactly what you paid for and definitely not going to be disappointed. And then in some cases, the company is going to advertise or set expectations for the consumer and then not deliver. And that is 100% how I feel about boarding actions. Towards the end of 9th edition, before 10th edition started, Games Workshop released boarding actions. They gave out a bunch of free rules, which is super cool. And it's basically just a new way to play like smaller games of Warhammer, essentially the equivalents of like Combat Patrol in an indoor setting. And honestly, it sounded pretty cool, sort of like Space Hulk that you could play with a buddy inside of the new Into the Dark terrain with smaller Warhammer forces, some restrictions on what you could actually take in your small little armies, but overall sounded pretty fun. They also went out of their way to reach out to a lot of the prominent content creators online, send them out a bunch of free product, and get them to push boarding actions really hard. Games Workshop also came out as everybody knew it was getting towards the end of 9th edition, and 10th edition was right on the doorstep. Made it very clear that boarding actions was going to be completely compatible with 10th edition, and the Games Workshop would continue to support it. All of the books that they were putting up for sale were going to be completely compatible with 10th edition. So rest assured that the game was going to be fully supported and there was going to be no loss as we rolled into the new edition, encouraging us to make our expensive purchases. They then proceeded to roll out 5 different arcs of Omen books, each one with like a different themed main character, setting the stage in the 41st millennia for what's to come, advancing the storyline. And honestly, I thought they did a really good job marketing them. I ended up picking up all 5 of these various books, as I'm a big fan of the actual lore and the story in the 41st millennia, and also the idea of boarding action seemed pretty cool. And now here we are over a year later, and I've got to say that in my opinion, boarding actions was a complete scam. Now maybe you have a different experience, and if you do, feel free to share it down below. But Games Workshop completely inundated like the online space, the content creation space, with a brand new product, got everybody super hyped about it, and then essentially didn't support it at all for the last year. Now, there's been a couple of like White Dwarf articles along the way, but GW definitely set false expectations as to what the game was going to be all about, what kind of support it was going to get going forward into the future, its compatibility with the new edition, and what was to come. So having purchased 5 different books for basically like 60 bucks a piece, I had $300 invested in just the actual books themselves. On top of that, I bought a few of the boarding actions box sets, which I'm not actually salty about because the miniatures can be used in various other games they offer. And then also got a few of the new terrain sets that they offer for like the Space Hulk setting or like the Into the Dark / boarding actions themed terrain. And then fast forward to current days, we're now over a year into the new edition. There's been basically no actual support for the game whatsoever. And I definitely feel like it was a massive scam. So maybe the product was just a complete flop and Games Workshop was intending for it to sell better. But every one of the boarding actions box sets sold out like almost immediately. The books were very popular and sold out quickly as well. But the fact that they basically said they were going to be supporting it, it was completely compatible with 10th edition, and made it out to be like it was going to be some brand new thing that everybody was going to be playing, definitely set some false expectations for me. And maybe it's not Games Workshop's fault, maybe it wasn't intentionally a scam, but the fact of the matter is, in over a year, they haven't paid any attention to it. I've got a bunch of books and a big investment that's basically useless, and I completely felt disenfranchised towards boarding actions as an actual game. And now here they are rolling out a new book for boarding actions, trying to build that hype back up. And honestly, I'm good. There is no way I'm going to be investing any more money in boarding actions. There's no way I'm buying into the hype again. And along the way, it also had negative repercussions on other things I was going to purchase. They also did like some end of edition books for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And after the experience I had with boarding actions, there's no way I was going to be buying those books as well. So I skipped out on every single one of the Dawnbringer books because of the negative experience I had with boarding actions. And I know a lot of other people felt the exact same way and didn't pick up any of them either. So let me know what kind of experience you've had with boarding actions. Have you actually played the game? Did you feel like it was overhyped and under-delivered? Because that is definitely the way I felt, and it has affected my purchases going forward. And the truth is, seeing them getting ready to release this new boarding actions book, at first I was initially excited to see, oh man, they're finally going to be supporting this. They're going to bring it back. But the truth is, there's no way I'm buying back into the hype with this. There's no way I'm getting scammed again. So let me know down below what experience you've had with boarding actions. Always like to hear back from you guys. Let's take a look at what's actually coming. But the truth is, I wanted to warn you guys so you don't fall for the same thing and throw a bunch of money at something that's basically just a cash grab.
Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now, back to the video.
Back when the Arks of Omen ravaged the galaxy, the action in Warhammer 40,000 moved to the claustrophobic corridors of Voidcraft in the game format known as boarding actions. These small-scale skirmishes challenge players to take compact infantry force into close quarters where death lurks around every blind corner. Though the rules were updated when the latest edition of the game arrived, we've seen fewer boarding actions over the last year or so. Until now. So Games Workshop basically acknowledging that they have done absolutely nothing for boarding actions in over a year. Until now. Plunge back into the world of door-to-door firefights and desperate charges with Warhammer 40,000 boarding actions. A hefty new compendium ram full of updated rules and missions for the current edition. The book refreshes dozens of missions for the Arks of Omen series, including both narrative and competitive options, as well as a large multiplayer games for up to 4 people. So here we see the new boarding actions book, 0% probability I'll be picking this up. Main billing goes to the complete list of boarding actions detachments for every faction in the game, giving you quick and easy options for building a balanced boarding actions around thematic army lists. Every faction has at least 2 detachments with their own detachment rules, enhancements, and stratagems, as well as unit rosters that determine how many of each unit you can take. For example, the Genestealer cults have 2 detachments, the Cult Unveiled and the Genespawn Onslaught. The former leans closer to the more recognizable human side of the cult and sends waves of expendable acolyte hybrids and neophyte hybrids into the tunnels, while the latter prefers the monstrous aberrants and hybrid metamorphs for some brutal close quarters combat. So here we see like 2 basic little rundowns of what you can take in your list. As boarding patrols are typically just 500 points, these cut-down unit selections still offer a diverse range of choices despite leaving anything larger than a Terminator at the door. Vehicles and monsters are almost entirely off-limits, while corridors and hatchways keep the action close-ranged, and tense for factions that prefer to stay safe behind the firing lines. The wide assortment of missions on offer makes good use of unique boarding actions terrain to present tactical challenges found nowhere else. Some are asymmetric, tasking a player with destroying vital infrastructure behind your opponent's defenses, while others are narrative reenactments that relive pivotal moments from the Vastor the Archfane's friendship campaign. One of our personal favorites, the Dark Depth missions, even allows each player to select half of the board layout, ideally a layout that suits their playstyle, before slamming them together into a chaotic warren of mismatched killing fields. If you've ever wanted to paint your terrain to match your army and take it on tour against like-minded boarding patrols, it's a perfect place to start. So here we see the boarding actions mission Dark Depths. You basically pick like 2 different maps, put them together, and then play a game. Another thing that disappointed me about boarding actions is the way the boards are actually set up and everything. You have this terrain that like interlocks, which is super cool, but you basically just push 2 boards together and the terrain doesn't actually interlock because it was poorly designed. So you basically have like 2 of the connector pieces just butted up against each other with no way to actually connect them. Warhammer 40,000 Boarding Patrols is on its way soon, and we'll have more from this book as we get closer to release. So yeah, burn me once, shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on me. There's absolutely no way that I'm falling for this again. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be picking up this book. I fully expect there to be content creators out there, or influencers, whatever you want to call them, pushing boarding actions, busting out the old stuff, trying to advertise for Games Workshop, and I highly urge you to resist the temptation. The idea of boarding actions is definitely cool, but the level of support that Games Workshop has given to this game has been absolutely atrocious over the last year. It feels 100% like a massive money grab with no follow through, and there's no way I'm falling for this again. So let me know what your experience has been with boarding actions. Did you buy into like the hype cycle marketing campaign that Games Workshop ran? Have you been playing it all along and having a great time, even though they haven't supported it or released anything new in over a year? Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. In my opinion, this was 100% a money grab, and I definitely feel like I got scammed. Games Workshop set the precedent for what they were going to be offering, and in my opinion, a year later, they have not delivered at all. As a matter of fact, they literally haven't delivered anything. As always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the channel. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I wouldn't touch boarding actions with a 10-foot pole, and I'm out of here.